Hi, and welcome to this tutorial for Mjolnir 2.0, which I've just released, and I'm making rain. So anyways, the new features aren't too obvious, not all of them at least, so I'm making this video to explain how to use Mjolnir 2.0. So first of all, let me just apologize for the microphone quality, because this is the microphone on the Vive headset, because I can't really attach my studio microphone to my headset. So yeah, anyways, one big change is new visuals. So it's got major upgrade to the textures as well as a new emissive texture. So the patterns here on the hammer will actually light up when you charge it, and then it has a new handle. And all of these are courtesy of Max Hyber from the Blade and Sorcery Discord. So yeah. Anyways, as with Mjolnir 1.0, obviously you can throw the hammer, and it will come back to you, and you can charge it, but the charge is now instantaneous to more easily incorporate it into combat. So before you had to lift it up into the air and then wait like 2 seconds, and then it would be charged, and then you could, hit it against something or whatever. But now it is instantaneous, so you just lift it or swing it very quickly up into the air. And you don't want to just, move it up fast like this. That's not going to work too well. You want to get a swing on it like this. And then after a few seconds, it'll discharge unless you hit something or you throw it. So, unlike before, it now also has a supercharged mode, which will not only have more power, but it also, if you throw it, it won't uncharge or discharge when it hits something. So with a normal charge, as soon as you hit something, then the charge disappears, but the supercharge will remain until it returns to your hand. And furthermore, it will hit multiple targets in a row. So the normal charge or the normal throw will just hit one target and then return to you. But when it's supercharged, it will hit up to 6 targets in a row before it returns to your hand. And another change with the throwing is that it no longer automatically returns to you. So if I throw it, it'll remain there because it didn't find a target. So if I want to have it return, I just hit the trigger once and it'll come back. So I can throw it up and leave it there if I want to. Unless there is an enemy, because if I throw it up and there is an enemy, then it'll go to that enemy, but then it'll stay there until I hit the trigger. So the way it worked before was that it would wait, and then as soon as you lifted your hand or raised your hand, then it would return. And furthermore, you can now cancel the throws at any time. So if you throw it and for some reason it gets stuck on something, you can hit the trigger and it'll immediately return to you. Could also be that you found out that you need it now, so it should just return to you. So you just hit the trigger. Anyways, back to the supercharge. To supercharge it, there are 2 ways. You can either charge it normally by lifting it quickly above your head and then hold it there until it glows red. So in this state, it's now supercharged, and if you throw it, it'll hit up to 6 targets in a row, and it won't discharge when it hits something, unless you don't throw it hard enough. So yeah, and I've just disabled the sound for now, just so you can hear me speaking. All right. So Oh, return recall to your hand. So if you want to recall it, like if you put it down like before in the first version, it would just come back to you at seemingly random times. But now I've changed it so that you have to press the trigger 3 times in a row, and then it'll return to you, and you no longer have to point your hand towards it. You just hit the trigger 3 times, and it'll return. And furthermore, that was not a return, that was just telekinesis. Furthermore, if you want to make sure that it never returns to you, you can just put it on a rack or a holster or something, and it won't return no matter what. So yeah, if I just drop it here, and to actually drop it without it returning, just drop it gently, like hold your hand still and then drop it. But now, if I just hit the trigger 3 times, So what will happen is it'll race, and now it's basically like if I just thrown it. So then if I hit the trigger now, it'll return. I can also just hit the trigger 3 times and then hold it down, and that'll give it the same thing. So yeah. Anyways, for the homing algorithm, we just simply make the hammer fly directly towards the target. But now I have added some path finding, so hopefully that should make it better. So let me spawn an enemy using my unreleased sandbox plus mod. Spawn a single brain dead enemy. So if I just move back around this corner and then throw it. There we go. So yeah, and the strap. So it has the main handle here, which you can grab with both hands, and then it has a strap, which you can either grab directly, like so, or if you're already holding the main handle, if you slide your hand to the button, you will automatically grab it. So for example, if your hand is up here, and you slide it down to the bottom, it'll automatically grab the strap, much like the arrow. Now from here, if you want to go back, you can hold down the trigger and then tap the grip button, and that'll return your hand to the main handle. So anyways, once you hold the strap, you can swing it around to charge it for flight. Anyways, you swing it around to charge it, and when it's fully lit green, you can then hold the trigger to enable flight. Stop all sounds. Right, never mind then. So let me just land. I'm just landing here so you can hear what I'm saying. So, when you're in flight, if you only have the trigger pressed halfway, you'll fly at half speed, etc. And now this is where the return to main handle becomes useful, because if you're in flight and you want to, land and smack someone, you can quickly get to the main handle. Oops, if I could do it right. Jesus Christ. I think I have the recall. So while you're in flight, you're already holding down the trigger. So then you just tap the grip button to switch to the main handle. And, yeah. So that sonic boom is super flight speed, which you can reach by simply pressing the trigger on the other hand, which also means that 2 Mjolnirs don't really work well together still, but as long as you don't use super flight. So if you don't press the triggers in all the way, you could use 2, but I wouldn't recommend it. As you can see, if I only press the trigger a little bit, I'll just sort of float really slowly, and then you can also better hear me. So when you're in flight, or when you're in the air rather, it'll automatically charge for flight. So if you're falling, you won't have to swing it while falling. You just press the trigger and it'll be charged. And for this reason, you can also jump off of things and then enter flight mode. So if I just land here, so now it's fully on charge. So if I just jump off the bridge, you should see it charge, and then I can just enter flight mode. Also, if I'm up in the air and there's an enemy on the ground, I can switch to the main handle, throw it, and then it'll return to my hand, and I can continue flight. Probably requires a bit of altitude, because you don't want to hit the ground, or worse yet, the water. So, but yeah, you can totally like switch, throw it, and then have it return, and then fly. Continue flight. So when you're in the air, it will also return to you much faster, because you're falling at a high speed. So I want to make sure that it is able to catch up to you most of the time. You don't notice that lion very often, but I have seen it before. So yeah. Anyways, I mentioned another way to charge it, supercharge it. So, I showed that you can swing it quickly up into the air and then wait for it to turn red. But another way is sort of just a a cool effect. It doesn't make it more powerful or anything. It actually just takes a lot longer, but it's a cool effect. So you simply just lift it slowly above your head and wait. So if you then keep it up, it'll supercharge. So another new feature is a tractor beam, which you can use to, throw people around or, whatever. The tractor beam works by charging the hammer first and then quickly pointing it at someone, and that will attract them to the hammer. Like so. Again, just lift it up and then point it. Another mode of the tractor is repelling. So to repel, you do the same, you charge it, and then instead of pointing it straight at them, you move it back over like this in a circle and then point it at someone, and then it'll repel instead. One important thing is to hold it still once you point it. Don't just, like I tried to do, just immediately go like so. What? Okay, so there are some issues currently, especially with the tractor beam, because sometimes it selects the wrong mode. So sometimes when you want to repel, it attracts, and sometimes when you want to attract, repels, etc. And another issue that I've encountered is that sometimes it will refuse to return to your hand, no matter what you do. The only way to get it back is to grab it with your hand. So if it's close enough for you to grab it with telekinesis, you can do that. Otherwise, you'll have to grab it with your hand, or you can take another Mjolnir and fly up to it, or whatever. And then another issue is with the targeting system. Sometimes it'll refuse to find targets, multiple targets in a row for some reason. So with a supercharge, sometimes, or a lot of the time actually, it'll only find like 2 or 3 targets and then just stop homing for whatever reason. Alright, so I've got an enemy there, and then on the wooden bridge over there. So if I just supercharge it and throw it, it should hit all 3 targets. Right, so this time it worked, but sometimes it doesn't. And let me just show the new homing algorithm again. See, so that's the bug I was talking about, where sometimes it'll just refuse to go to the next target for whatever reason. I am currently debugging that, but I didn't want to wait because I think people have already waited a long time, and it does work and it's quite fun. So yeah. Anyways, let's try again. I don't know how he ended up there, but whatever. And I'm causing rain again. I think that is pretty much it. Maybe a couple of tips before I go. So when you want to charge it for flight by swinging it, don't just try to move it around like this, because that doesn't work well. You basically want to get your wrist going like this. That helps a whole lot. So basically, like, point the strap in the direction that the hammer is going. That works much better than just doing this. Unless it's already in motion, because most of the time this doesn't work very well. Right, so yeah, but swinging it like this always works. Another tip for that is that you can start by holding it on the main handle, and then get it going like this, and then hold the trigger for a second to switch to the strap. Right, so you just swing it and then hold the trigger to switch to the strap and then continue like that. So that can help get it going instead of getting something like this, which doesn't work very well. So yeah. So when charging it, if you don't want to supercharge it, make sure you take it down like immediately, otherwise it'll continue to charge to the supercharge. Like so, and then you can either hit it against something or throw it, because when you throw it, it won't discharge or uncharge rather before it hits someone. So while in flight, obviously you can also attack people while in flight, or another thing you can do is pick them up. But one thing you have to be careful about is that you don't get the hammer too close to them, because then they will dodge and you'll have a hard time grabbing them. And another problem is that once they're in the air, if they happen to touch the hammer while they, go flying, you want to keep the hammer to the side like this while you fly, and then grab them. Obviously, you don't want to stop like this, and then you want to be careful not to get it into the hammer. Sometimes it may charge when you don't want it to, like if you smack someone upwards. So in this case, you want to make sure you don't go too far. So like stop like this, get used to that. And the same if you try to throw it at someone, you may be inclined to like make it like a throw like this overhand, but that'll also charge it. Sorry, buddy. So, yeah, unless you want to charge it, you probably want to throw it like this, sideways, and it won't charge. That was a terrible throw. So, but of course, if you want to charge it, you can just do this. Obviously, you want to practice these a few times, these things, and one thing in particular is to switch between the strap and the main handle, because it can take some time getting used to, because you have to hold the trigger and then press the grip button and then release the grip button without letting go of the trigger first, right? So you want to hold down the trigger the whole time to switch. It takes a little while to get used to. It's a lot easier in flight because you're already holding the trigger to fly, but it allows you to switch to the main handle and then smack someone like so. Like that. So yeah. I was throwing it there, but obviously you can also just smack them. I don't think I hit him, or maybe I did. Whoa, okay. So I wasn't clear on the recalling. Let me just reiterate that. So when you throw it, it won't return until you press the trigger. And this happens whether you throw it at nothing or whether there's an enemy. So if you throw it, you're not supposed to hit multiple targets, you asshole. So I guess there is another bug, but yeah. So now, once it's done hitting its target, it won't return to you until you press a trigger. And before you had to raise your hand, but you don't have to do that anymore. You just hit the trigger, and then it will come back to you. Or maybe this is one of the times it doesn't return no matter what. So, anyways, obviously still a few things I need to work on, but I have released it now, so you can go play with it. And yeah, hopefully this was useful. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye-bye. Bye-bye.